I was over my boyfriend's apartment this weekend and I was cooking dinner because he was studying for exams. I made pasta and a chunky sauce with meatballs and veggies. I told him dinner was ready and he goes, "What's for dinner tonight, bitch?" With like a lot of emphasis on the last word. I was fed up. I'd had a pretty rough day with work and I have some awfully bad associations with that word being used by other people in my life who were pretty abusive. So I was so irritated that I dropped the pot of pasta sauce I'd been carrying right on the ground and was like, "Well, nothing's for dinner tonight now. And I better not hear you using that word again." He was freaking out about how sauce had landed on his rug and he even said, "You're seriously acting like a bitch right now. I don't know what else to call it." I just walked out and got takeout for myself and went to my friend's house. She thought it was funny, but my boyfriend was furious. He kept texting and calling and sending me voice memos trying to explain that saying "What's for dinner tonight, bitch" was a TikTok trend, and that he was just quoting something as a joke to put on TikTok. I thought that was the shittiest excuse ever. It doesn't matter if he saw it as a joke or stole the joke, it was still disrespectful. But it didn't change the fact he thought that shit was funny. To demean me when I was trying to do him a favor. Like hell, I came over when he was studying to make a home-cooked dinner and he decides it's time for jokes. So I put my phone on, don't disturb for the night, and split a bottle of wine with my friend and her roommate. The next morning he was sending me angry texts demanding I clean his rug because he was too busy with exams to do it. I was shocked he left it overnight, that's disgusting. I texted him back saying, "Yeah, so that's the bitch tax, honey. Leave me alone till you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this bitch isn't anymore. Also, it's vile you left that soaking in all night." He called me and told me that he was okay with doing his own household work, but I did throw a full pot of sauce at the ground, so that's on me to clean up. I told him, "Yeah, no, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like your bitch." He told me he didn't, and it was just a trend. I got pissed off because he was playing that TikTok trend BS excuse again, and I told him, "Well, I'm starting a trend called saucing, where as a little joke people throw pasta sauce around. You can't be mad because it's just a little trend, a little jokey joke, just a little prank, bro." He got really pissed off and hung up on me, and now I'm seriously wondering if this dumb fucking TikTok joke is going to be the end of things between us. Am I in the wrong for how I reacted when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, bitch?" I study drama at uni, and my boyfriend is on the same course. My boyfriend is a really good-looking guy, but he doesn't seem to know it. He gets a lot of attention from girls, and for the most part, doesn't seem to get that they're flirting with him. I'm not generally annoyed by this, and never really say anything. However, there's one girl in our class, let's call her Victoria, who is obsessed with my boyfriend. She goes out of her way to be paired with him in group activities. For example, if the professor picks groups by numbering us 1, 2, 3, she will move herself to be in the same number as him. She recently stepped down from a main role in a play we're doing so she could be in a more minor one, simply because this character has a romance with my boyfriend. I know this is the case because I've heard her say to her friends that she thinks he's hot and whatnot. I've never said anything to her about it, because she seems pretty insecure, always complaining about how she thinks she's ugly, and I don't see it as a big deal because my boyfriend doesn't care. However, we recently performed the play and had a small after-party where she got slightly drunk and was bragging about how she definitely felt something when they kissed in the play, and she's going to ask him if he felt the same. I rolled my eyes and again ignored it, until she actually went up to my boyfriend. She was a little bit drunk, and when she went up to him, I was there too. Victoria started saying that she knows he must have felt a spark. He's a really good kisser, etc. I snapped, and sort of shouted at her that, "You sound incredibly desperate, going after somebody else's boyfriend. You're pathetic if you think a stage kiss means you should be together." She looked super embarrassed and walked away, and I later heard she'd gone home crying. I feel like a dick because she's obviously insecure and whatnot, and her friends haven't stopped calling me a bitch since. Am I the jerk here? My husband and I are expecting. This is our first baby and we're excited. Thing is, he barely attends any doctor appointments with me, and his excuses aren't even valid. He's willing to miss the doctor appointment over soccer or a drink or board game with friends. His response is always, "I'm not the one carrying the baby. Why do I have to go see the doctor with you?" Last week was my final straw. He was supposed to come with me for the baby's gender reveal appointment, but he chose to not come last minute because his friend invited him to a fish and chips meal. I was pretty livid but didn't make a fuss about it. Mom went with me instead. He texted asking me to tell him the results. Boy or girl? But I refused to tell him. He kept spam calling me, but I hung up each time. He came home fuming, demanding I tell him the results, but I refused and bluntly told him, since he refused to attend the appointment, then he gets no results till after the baby's born, and said I was willing to die on this hill. He went off calling me spiteful and immature for doing this and punishing him. He said he's the father and has the right to know. He then called me dramatic since I wasn't alone and Mom was with me. I said he gets no results, period. He's been fuming about it and told his family, and they're now pressuring me to stop playing mind games with him and tell him, but I declined. Am I wrong for this? I met my boyfriend 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. However, a year later we started dating. His mom was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them, and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me by his ex's name, until my boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name, Janet instead of Jenny. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My boyfriend has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to BBQ at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my boyfriend's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my boyfriend what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What's wrong?" She said she thought Janet was bringing the turkey. There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, to be honest. But I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? My dad died suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she started seeing. I'm 23 years old and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has 2 daughters, ages 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family, becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy. I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my stuff with his kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because we're now family. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door, there's a door to the basement and the stairs to go into the house. So it's pretty separate. So last night I was DDing for some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight, though, her boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and got sent to my room with possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner, but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure, and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father-son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult, or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family, and they think I'm the asshole. Did I overstep, or am I in the right? I recently moved into my first home. I'm also 4 months pregnant with our first baby. The pregnancy has been very hard. I have horrible morning sickness. It reached a really bad point where I passed out, hit my head, and my doctor admitted me to the hospital for a week. When I got home, my husband allowed his brother's family to move into 2 of our 3 bedrooms. They were evicted from their previous house. I don't know why. My office was tossed into our room, papers everywhere. The house was a complete wreck. Trash, dirty clothes, used diapers. I started to cry. It was like a light flip. My husband was no longer the same. My husband told me it wasn't that bad. My reply was, "Fine, then you should have the house cleaned up before I wake up." Completely exhausted, I fell asleep for 4 HRS. I woke up and went to get a drink of water. I couldn't even do that. Every glass we own is scattered around the house. They didn't clean a single thing. I passive-aggressively started to pick up the dirty dishes and wash them. The following morning, I was trying my best to work when their kids were crying non-stop, banging on the walls and so on. Their mom was in her room for hours ignoring them. when my husband came home. He was upset with me over how I didn't make his brother's wife feel welcome in our home by helping with their kids when she was tired. Then continued to complain how nothing was done while he was at work all day in the house. Yep, the same one he didn't clean. That led to a fight where I told him, I am too sick to have company and they need to leave. To which he replied they are his family and he won't kick them out. I started to cry again. I was beyond frustrated, exhausted. I physically couldn't do it anymore. I called my mom asking if I could come stay with her, telling her the whole story in front of my husband, who at this point was completely shocked, angry also. I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. My mom came with my brothers. I have 3 older brothers. My mom, super angry, told my husband, since your family can stay, so can we. My mom quickly took charge. I was sent to bed. My brother started cleaning, complaining loudly at how disgusting my husband's family is, along with what a horrible husband my husband is for putting me through this while I am sick. I got a text message from my mother-in-law calling me an asshole for not helping my husband clean up the house and putting my brother-in-law in an uncomfortable position by having my mom boss them around. Am I wrong for calling my mom when my husband refused to listen to me? My sister runs a bakery business, and she's been struggling lately to keep up with orders because she's been short-staffed. She does a lot of orders for wedding cakes that require custard or marmalade fillings, and I offered to help her out by making these fillings at home and bringing them to her so she has less work to do. Unfortunately, the past 4 times I've made these fillings, my girlfriend has literally dipped her fingers into the filling jars and contaminated them because, in her words, she just wanted to try some. I've tried explaining to her that she can't dip her fingers in and contaminate the entire batch, because then I have to remake it. I said she should use a spoon and take some out if she wants to try so bad, but she just pouts and says that she likes using her fingers because it takes her back to her childhood. Today, I was trying to finish some chocolate custard to send it over to my sister really fast because she was running late on a wedding cake order for an important client. I told my girlfriend beforehand to not eat the custard, and if she really wanted to please use a spoon. I get out of the shower, and what do I see? She has her fingers in it again. I totally lost it because this is the 5th time she blatantly disregarded what I said, and I yelled at her and told her to stop effing eating the food I'm making because it's not for her and she's contaminating it. She started crying and got mad at me for fat-shaming her, even though I made no comment on her weight and she has no history of weight issues or eating disorders. I know I was harsh, but she kept pushing my limits. Am I a jerk for saying that? So I was at Bloomingdale's today and happened to end up next to 2 teenage-aged girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots, and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at the price tag and asked the boots girl if she's really going to spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine, I have my dad's credit card I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud. But I had split up from the girls at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register. I'm behind her, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this, and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell the cashier that it isn't her card but her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells the cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives him the points. Now that I've pointed out it wasn't hers, the cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name, and I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business that she's doing something illegal. She needs to pay with her own card or I call the cops. Girl is pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home only for him to agree I was in the wrong. Was I actually in the wrong? My sister-in-law, Amy, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with some excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back. She never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the asshole, and I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, she and my husband went to the car. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said no, we need one bill, because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, "This wallet?" She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So am I a jerk for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? So I live with my childhood best friend and have done so for 2 years now. Up until last week, things were perfect between us. For context, we're both guys in our early 20s. Anyways, he recently got a new girlfriend, and she honestly seems absolutely great, except for one thing. She seemingly has a complete aversion to knocking. She and I have quite a lot in common, and I actually like spending time with her. However, it bugs the hell out of me when she just barges into my room without knocking first. Now, luckily, she's never walked in on me doing anything untoward. I'm usually just chilling on my bed or studying at my desk. However, on at least 7 separate occasions now, she's done it first thing in the morning to ask if I want coffee. I sleep naked. Every time prior to the last one, I've been under the covers and she hasn't seen anything. I always point out that she could have knocked and she just giggles and says, "But I didn't." When she stayed over last week, in order to make my point, I intentionally slept on top of the covers. Sure enough, she barges in at 7 a.m., begins to ask if I want coffee and sees my you-know-what. She immediately backed out of the room and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. My mate later pulled me aside and said I was bang out of order. He accused me of deliberately exposing myself and pointed out that I'd threatened to do it before. I literally just said, "Okay, but what if I had no covers and you saw everything before?" They're now framing this to others that I'm some sick creep who intentionally got naked and lay in wait for her because that's how I get my rocks off, and I'm kind of seeing how it came off that way. Am I in the wrong for doing this? My wedding was back on December 31st, and I'm still getting backlash from this, so I want to know if this was a jerk move. In the country I live in, it's currently winter, and we get a fair amount of snow, so my wedding was a winter-themed wedding. The color theme was forest green and gold. My dress was obviously white, and I chose the color of my bridesmaids' dresses to be forest green as well. My mother-in-law's dress was black, and everyone was to wear gold accessories. I have this friend, we'll call her Kat, that I asked to be one of my bridesmaids. When we went dress shopping and I told them the color theme I was going for, Kat immediately expressed that she thought forest green was a bad choice. She said she thinks it's not a flattering color and thought I should choose something different and more girly. I said no because my wedding was winter-themed, and I thought the color would go perfect with the theme. She suggested pink, blue, even red. I said no, but thanks for your opinion. She found out my mother-in-law's dress was black and asked if she could wear black too. I said no, only my mother-in-law is wearing black. I paid for all the dresses. Fast forward to wedding day. Everyone's getting their hair and makeup done, and Kat shows up 30 minutes late holding a bag that looked like it had a dress inside. I asked her what this was for. She told me it was for later on at the reception if she got uncomfortable and wanted to change after pictures. I was like, okay, cool. So fast forward, we're all dressed and walking down the stairs because the ceremony is beginning in 30 minutes and we were going to take some pictures before. Kat is the last person to come down and she's wearing a black dress. At the time, I was preoccupied taking pictures with my parents, but my mother-in-law came over to me and made me aware of the situation. I confronted Kat and asked her what was going on. She said she hates her bridesmaid dress, as the color is ugly and makes her look gross, so she's wearing black. I told her please go back and change. She refused and started walking away from me. I said I'm going to ask her one more time, and if she doesn't oblige, I'm calling security and kicking her out. She began yelling at me to fuck off, so I called security and asked them to please escort her out. She started making a big scene yelling how I'm such a bitch, that I can't force her to wear anything, and that I'm a horrible, inconsiderate friend. The wedding went on, and it was truly amazing. Ever since the wedding, Kat has been blowing up my phone with texts saying some really nasty things and asking for the money back she spent on the black dress, since it was a waste and she didn't get to wear it. I had to block her number. Some of my other bridesmaids have been giving me shit saying that it was a little harsh kicking her out and embarrassing her like that. and that maybe I should give her the money back. Am I wrong for kicking her out? If you're enjoying our content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on new videos, and you'll be helping support our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.